about St. Jerome and the Gospel reading that we heard at lunchtime from Matthew's Gospel. Jesus said to the disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a net thrown into the sea, which collects fish of every kind. When it is full, they haul it ashore and sit down to put what is good into buckets. What is bad, they throw away. Thus it will be at the end of the age. The angels will go out and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth." Jesus asked them, "Do you understand all these things?" They answered, "Yes." And he replied, "Then every scribe who has been instructed in the kingdom of heaven is like the head of a household who brings from his storeroom both the new and the old." St. Jerome lived in the 4th century and studied classics and then moved on to translate the Bible from the original languages of Greek and Hebrew into Latin and became one of the great scholars of the early church. He reinterprets and brings afresh to his generation the good news of God, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Over the last few days, I've been sharing in a number of different conversations with colleagues, both in the parish and from the wider diocese, reflecting on what we've experienced in the last few months, about the many new things we've had to wrestle with and come to terms with, about the joys of Zoom, about the struggles of live streaming, about the challenges of keeping in touch with everybody, about the various ways in which the church is having to be different to what we would normally consider it to be. But in those reflections, as well as acknowledging that sometimes it's not been straightforward, that sometimes it hasn't been easy to know what is right to do, we've also acknowledged that we've rediscovered the things that we have always done, the things that have always been of value, the importance of that rhythm of prayer, the life of worship, the pastoral care of each other, and the sharing the good news with the wider community in service and in love. The gospel reading we've just heard reminds us that as we move forward, we, like Jerome, need to translate, to interpret for our own age, the good news of God, to bring into the here and now those understandings of our life of faith, being part of a community of faith, and of being followers of Christ. What are the new things that we have learnt and have valued? And what are those things that we have learnt to reappreciate, to revalue, and to recognise them as being of importance in our ministry and our lives today? So I wonder for you, what has been the new things that you have learnt? What have been the new things that you've discovered about your walk with Christ? And what have been the old things that have helped you as you journey forward? What have been the old things that you have learnt are indispensable in being faithful in following God? And then let us use both the new and the old and rejoice at both of them and use them both as faithful followers, as Jerome was, of the gospel that he translated.